The 16th of Nullig 2023, the 16th of December 2023. You're very, very welcome back to the channel and more on the developing world that we live in. Elections throughout Europe have proven that there's a move away from this mass migration, cultural Marxism that is so pushed by so many in Ireland. And as I've said, we have to get the gloves off and realise they're our enemy, and the government that allows them to do this is also the enemy. Now remember, a lot of TDs and a lot of senators in Ireland, and a lot of them are just cowards. They don't want to stand up for this. And also I do believe that the whole political parties have told everyone to ease off a bit on the complaining, because it could precipitate an election, and they don't want an election in the winter, particularly now in December and January 2023 and next January. And I kind of see that it would not be good for democracy to do that right now. Maybe February, maybe March, or all that. And I'd say that there is a bit of that. Now Ireland can be slow to change, but remember that in the election of 1918, 73% of the Irish people voted for nationalist politics. And in Cavan, Arthur Griffith was elected in County Cavan. I mean, those people are still around. Not them, of course, but the breed of them is still around. It could change. It could change unbelievably fast. And it's a bit like Sinn Féin in the last election. They didn't have enough candidates. And this is what I'm trying to get my head around, and I may fail in this, is that we are ready to pick up the tab. This is why I asked Colin McGregor not to go start a new party. We have enough there. Just support what we have and give us a bit of a drive, and let's get moving on what we have. We can start a new party. But one of the things that's happening now is that all over Europe there is a move away from this. I mean, they've changed the government in Sweden. In Poland they didn't. They went left-wing. Whatever is wrong with them in Poland, I don't know. But now France is facing Le Pen, and Germany's facing the alternative for Deutschland, and Meloni's in Italy. And I want to make clear again for some of the lefties, I believe that we need to create the conditions here in Ireland that more young people can have children. We need to increase our birth rate. I agree with that. And that doesn't mean that we exclude the whole world. It doesn't mean that Polish men and women living here can't have children and go to the schools and all that. Some of the priests have said, not our priest here, but some of the priests have said, only for the Poles I have nobody at church. So they'll be all right. They're grand with this, so long as they're of the broad same diaspora and religious affiliation, Christian as we are, and if they're Muslims, that they're able to accommodate, and that they're limited in number, so that we avoid extreme Muslims in time to come. Now, so we'll just take a look at what's happening. According to Der Spiegel in Germany, there have been riots in Germany over migration. And there has been pro-Palestinian protests where the Star of David has been painted on Jewish houses. This hasn't really happened since the Second World War. And it's happening again in Germany. And all of the effort they made to stop this. Synagogues have been attacked in Germany with petrol bombs. This is the country that said never again after Hitler. It just shows you, things can very easily go back to normal. And it's not right to label all Jews with what's going on in the Middle East. This is a failure of the Americans and the EU to carry out good, strong negotiations to try and resolve the Palestine-Israeli problem. And I see that Erdogan, the president of Turkey, he's starting to get saber-rattle now and say, look, we're going to grasp this, we're going to fix this. And there's one thing I think which can be for certain, is that never, ever will the Americans fix it, or the EU. If you're around in 60 years' time, and you'd want to be about 10 now to be able to do that, you will never see the Palestinian-Israeli position resolved by America or the EU. You might see the current Netanyahu government driving out all of the people of Gaza, and no doubt they'll want them all into Ireland as well. This is the way it goes, but that's what they'll try to do. But whether it can be stopped or not, I don't know. But blaming the Jewish people who live peacefully throughout the world in this way is a very dangerous precedent. So it is. Now, for the critics there who want all this migration here into Ireland, the German Chancellor, Herr Schulz, is reported in Der Spiegel as saying we're going to have to start deportations. And I think this word deportations has to become part of our language to frighten our government. We have to let everyone know we're serious and that we will be sending people back to where they came from. The French Interior Minister, whose name is Gerard, don't quote me, it's Domino, Gerard Domino, I think that's his name, please, it's Domino anyway, right, I'm going by memory. He said we're going to start to deport dangerous migrants from without waiting on the European Court of Human Rights. Now, don't confuse the European Court of Human Rights with the European Court of Justice. They're two totally different things. But I believe too Ireland should immediately withdraw from the European Court of Human Rights. They will always side with mass migration. Always side with mass migration. Okay? Now, in Britain, they're terrified of the European Court of Human Rights. They're waiting for the judgment about exporting people or deporting people to Rwanda, and they're terrified of it. This is the way the British are. And nobody ever pays a bit of heed elsewhere. The French will probably defy the European Court of Human Rights, and they can do nothing, only call them over the coals and fine them £50, €50. But would you believe it that Putin was a signature, Russia was a signature to the European Court of Human Rights, and he ignored the whole thing. He doesn't allow any migration at all. In fact, he's probably pushing this migration, and they hawed and bawed about him, and they can do absolutely nothing. It's a toothless tiger, the European Court of Human Rights. A lot of people don't understand that an awful lot of law is judge law, a judge-made law, and the judges can actually become political. One of the key centres of our legal system in Ireland is the doctrine of precedent and the law of equity. But I'm not going to that at the moment. But there was a case in 1932 where a judge ruled about a snail in a bottle that we all hold a duty of care to our neighbours. So this fellow was bottling lemonade, and a woman bought the bottle of lemonade, and if she had to drink the snail and get sick, no doubt the bottler would be liable. But she gave it to a friend, and the friend drank it, a little petite lady, and she got very ill, genuinely did, and she sued the bottle maker, and the court said that the duty of care is to the whole world at large. I'm not taking issue with that, except to say, why didn't the Parliament do it? Why do we have to wait for judges to make the law? Why don't the Parliament make the law, not the judges? But in the case of the European Court of Human Rights, the original draft of the charter under which it operates was harmless enough. But it was the judges. It was the judges that tightened up on this. The law that you can't deport a migrant is judge-made law. It's not part of the original treaties that were agreed to at all. The judges have added to it, and of course, judges are always woke. King's Counsel Martin Howe, 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 he was on GB News, and he makes the point that the whole rules under which the European Court of Human Rights operates under have been changed by judges, and he makes the point that it's time to get out of it, that it's not applicable in a democratic country, that somebody like that can dictate, and we always know they'll go woke. And I think as I become more politically active, I'll be pressing upon the parties. You needn't be asking Fianna Fáil or any of them, but certainly the Irish Freedom Party and the National Party, I would be suggesting that, and the independent TDs, that we withdraw from the European Court of Human Rights. And another thing, it'd be great fun to see the lefties in Dublin, Richard Boyle Carrot and all of these, Ivana Banshee, or whatever you call her, Banshee, and all of these, rub it up them big time. I think that there's a good case to be made from pulling out of that whole thing altogether, and let's take our destiny back in our hands. Remember, we have the European Court of Justice, which is a different court. That's the guardian of the treaties. The European Court of Human Rights the original charter was very, very limited. It was just to do with rights. You couldn't just sentence some person to some very cruel or unusual punishment or something like that, or you couldn't perhaps prevent a husband of a lady who is living in Ireland, coming here from abroad and joining her family, and that sort of stuff where it was humanistic, but it's gone away from that altogether. It's gone away where it's interfering with the British government's rights to deal with asylum seekers. Now, I make the point, I went several judicial reviews, and the last one in particular, I was trying to get leave to take my judicial review on the environment, and I had a big queue in front of me of asylum seekers. Big heap of asylum seekers occupying the same courtroom that I was in, trying to protect my environment. And it's unbelievable how large this is, how big a constituency this asylum thing is. You wouldn't believe it till you go up to court number 12 in the High Court in Dublin and see it playing out there, and all these barristers on free legal aid cleaning up at our expense and becoming millionaires and getting houses out in South Dublin as they ply their trade with this, and with the European Court of Human Rights in the background. We got to bite the bullet on this. This is different now to the European Court of Justice, which deals with the treaties and EU law. So we asked them to enforce EU law, and they refused. And Ireland and the EU refuses to obey the ruling of the European Court of Justice. It refuses to obey it. At the moment, the government in Ireland is trying to pass legislation to keep the Derrybrine wind farm in defiance of the European Commission, because there was no proper environmental assessment carried out on the mudslide. They're trying to overcome it, and I'm in a war with them on the failure to comply with Article 3.2 of the SCA directive. So there's a position where we have the court on our side, and we cannot get the judgment. I cannot, as an Irish citizen, benefit from the judgment. I have to now go back to the court and get people back to the court, which is to prove what's written clearly in law, and what the European Court of Justice has clearly stated, that these things are illegal, and I still have to fight it. And yet, if I was an asylum seeker, once I'd even be able to shout European Court of Human Rights, the whole state would cave in. Do you see the duality of the rights? Do you see how the European Court of Human Rights is siding with all the migrants who are not from here at all, and the European Court of Justice is siding with me too, but I cannot get the judgment that they give enforced without a very long, protracted, long drawn out campaign of which the government will fight. We have a case, the Friends of the Irish Environment. Some of my people contributed here. We have a case too in Europe. I mentioned that to you before. And there's a case in Sweden and Holland, all very slow. But do you see, the government here will not yield. They'll fight us to the bitter end because we are Irish. If we were migrants, they'd cave in just like that. Do you see the injustice of this? Well, while we're in the EU, we have to fight and endeavour to win our cases on the environment, but we also have to realise that the European Court of Justice deals with the directives, and they're written down clearly and all of that. These courts, in the European Court of Human Rights in Strasbourg, it makes its own rules up, always to suit the foreigner, the migrant seeker, and all of that. So you see what I'm saying? It's time to get out, time to pull out of it and leave it and make it clear we don't want to be part of it anymore. And that is becoming the standard now, where people realise this court has gone too far and it has to be kicked out. Folks, give me a thumbs up and comment underneath, and that'll give food for thought for the lefties as well. And we'll see you back for something else soon. Thank you.